Good morning. I always advise people to be very, very careful and leery when it comes to religion. And there's many reasons why. I've gone into detail multiple times about how I was an atheist for the majority of my life, for the first 30 plus years. And religion was largely a reason why I was atheist. Because I could, read and I could see, and what I read didn't match what I saw, not even remotely. I had talked about, because Sharia law has been in the news here and there lately, and I had talked about a law, and I couldn't think of the name of it for the life of me, but there's an opposing law, if you will, and essentially it's much of the same thing, but from another religious team. I'll call them teams too. And that is called Noahide laws. And I couldn't think of that term, that name, for the life of me. And there was 2 or 3 shows here recently that I've done, and I spoke on Noahide laws, and I couldn't think of what they were called. My apologies for that. It happens from time to time. But I'm always very leery, and I always advise people to be very leery whenever they do stuff like that. There's something that has growing popularity here in the United States in different religious beliefs, and one of those things is segregating. And I always warn very heavily about segregating, especially in religion. If your faith, if your church is trying to split you up, men on one side, women on the other, find a new church. That is not good. They are trying to gain control of your household. That is a fact. And it's being done in more and more religions, if you will. That's one thing I noticed. We had some young ladies that was coming to visit us from the Church of the Latter-day Saints, Mormons. And it was all good up until, I think there were some crossed wires, and I think that they were under the impression that I was actively seeking to be baptized. And no, I'm not. When it's the Father's time, He'll make it happen. I didn't push for that. I wasn't looking for that. However, I got to hear about this long list of things that I have to change before I could be baptized. Well, I hate to tell you, little missy, but considering that you celebrate pagan holidays every year, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to let you tell me about my shortcomings. It is what it is. That was the last time they were in our home, by the way. I'm a firm believer in do not judge unless you want judged. And if they step foot in this home again, they will get judged. And that's just the way it is. It's the way it is. If you're going to make me listen to your bullshit, then you're going to listen to mine. That's the way it is. Well, bring it on back to the news and what's going on today. By the way, many, as I've said, religions are trying to push this segregation. Real popular in the South, especially in the Baptist churches and stuff like that. Hey, I was raised Southern Baptist, so I don't want to hear it. But it's very popular and gaining popularity, where they have their women's groups and they have their separate. I'm not good with that. Even Bear Independent, they've got their women's group. Not good with that. Sorry. You don't need to separate them. And in fact, if you look in the Word, it warns against that. It heavily warns against that. So if your church has programs segregating men and women, you need a new church. Oh, but they're not doing it to cause problems. They're not doing it to get in between. Yeah, like they're going to tell you that's why they're doing it? where on earth did we get this notion that people tell the truth? Because there's so many people, whether it's politicians, whether it's doctors, whether it's whatever, that will walk around and, oh yeah, but blah blah said. But blah blah said. Trump's running again. How many times are we going to have to hear about what bullshit came out of that fake phony's mouth? How many? But he said. But he said. The problem is they don't do. I don't give a damn what they say. So anyway, this is just more and more weakening of humanity. And I didn't make a mistake on words there. Because what they are trying to do is they are trying to divide so they can weaken, so they can conquer. They've done pretty much everything under the sun to destroy the nuclear family. They've done everything under the sun to destroy the relationship between man and woman. They've done everything to try to destroy the relationship between parents and children. If you don't understand me there, take a little deeper look. They're doing everything they can to divide as many as they can. Don't let them get away with this one. Because this is one of the final acts of the play. Don't fall for it. And I know I didn't read the article. I'll leave the link to the article in the description of the video. You can go read it to your heart's extent. Do not let your faith, your church, your religion separate you based on gender. Or anything, for that matter. I mean, it's one thing to have Sunday school for the children, you know, and then the adult sermons for the adults. That's one thing. But don't let them separate you by gender. Because it is a very, very nefarious reason why. And of course, like I say, they're not going to tell you, this is what we're doing, this is why. People are going to have to grow up and start using their own discernment. And they're going to have to learn to start doing the right thing. Not necessarily what they want to do, not what they feel like they want to do, not what would make them happy. The right thing. That path is narrow. It gets real damn narrow. I don't know what to tell folks. You know, the way I look at it in my life, and this, I can only make my call for me, but I had spent my life as a screw-up in some instances, in some ways. In other ways, I really wasn't that screwed up, but in fact, a lot less screwed up than most of society. However, I did my share of screwing up throughout my lifetime. You know, it is what it is. I figure that I've gotten my time in, you know? So, I could spend the rest of my life being a decent human being. It's not going to hurt me. I had my years of being a piece of crap. So, but be careful of this. Be careful of any kind of segregation anywhere. It's usually never rooted in anything good. And this whole Noahide law thing, we got to put a stop to it. We got to put a stop to it. Because it's just as bad, just as dangerous as Sharia law. It's really, to be honest, not all that different. Anyway, be careful. Use discernment. And remember, you've got a direct line to him. Use it. Shalom.